The galaxy had never felt so still. For centuries, worlds had warred, alliances had risen and fallen, and civilizations had burned, but the people of Valoran Prime believed in a fragile, beautiful peace. The twin suns of their world shone bright, over forests that glittered like emeralds, rivers that sang as they wound through valleys, and cities that balanced advanced technology with the gentle flow of nature. Today, humans and Valorans had gathered to celebrate that peace. Captain Mara Hale of Earth's Starfleet stood on the observation deck of the Resolute, her eyes wide with wonder. From orbit, she could see the laughter and joy below. Children ran through flowering meadows, scholars exchanged knowledge, and soldiers of both races trained together, learning trust and camaraderie. Mara's heart swelled. This was why humans had left Earth, to stand among the stars, to share, to protect, and to grow. But peace, Mara learned that day, was only as strong as those who defended it. Without warning, the sky darkened. Shadows moved faster than anyone could follow. Ships so black they seemed to swallow light pouring from hyperspace. Mara's eyes narrowed. Sensors screamed, alarms blared, but there was no time to react before the first strike hit. Explosions ripped through the city centers. Buildings that had stood for centuries collapsed in smoke and fire. Human and Valoran allies alike scrambled in panic. The joyous hum of life was replaced by screams and the sickening roar of collapsing metal. Mara pressed her hands to the console, fingers shaking, as she watched friend after friend, mentor after mentor, fall before her eyes. Her comms crackled. "Mara, help, we're trapped in the academy." A Valoran voice shouted, panic thick in every word. Her chest tightened. She wanted to respond, to save them, but the Resolute could not get close fast enough. The fleet below was too small, too scattered, and the attackers were everywhere. Captain Hale's mind raced. This was deliberate. This was slaughter. Earth had warned the galaxy about lurking dangers, about races who would strike without reason or mercy. But no one had listened. And now, the cost of ignorance was written in smoke and blood. Mara clenched her fists so tightly that her knuckles whitened. Rage, raw and blinding, surged through her veins. She felt it in her chest, her stomach, and behind her eyes. It was not just anger. It was sorrow, grief, a terrible consuming fire that demanded action. She could not save everyone, but she would make those responsible pay. Humanity would not let this atrocity pass unnoticed. Below, survivors ran through the streets carrying the injured, dragging the wounded, and screaming in disbelief. Families were torn apart. Mara's mind conjured their faces, the smiles, the laughter, the hope, and now nothing remained but ashes. Yet even in the devastation, something flickered. Humans and Valorans alike showed courage amid despair. Mothers shielded children. Soldiers formed protective walls around civilians. Mara felt a spark of pride. Even when their world was burning, they did not falter. They did not break. They would survive. "Prepare the fleet," Mara said into the comms, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. "We strike back. No mercy. For Valoran Prime. For every life they stole." Her crew nodded, eyes filled with the same burning determination. The Resolute trembled as they powered up weapons, engines, and shields. Outside, the enemy's shadow loomed over Valoran Prime like a dark omen, but humans did not cower. Humans did not retreat. They had faced the impossible before and had emerged stronger. And in that moment, as the twin suns set over smoke-choked forests and burning cities, a promise was forged, not in treaties or speeches, but in fire and fury. Earth would respond, Earth would avenge, and across the stars, every being who dared harm their allies would learn the true meaning of human wrath. The silence of the galaxy was broken that day, not by peace, but by the first echo of Earth's vengeance. Across light years, on the blue jewel of Earth, the news of Valoran Prime's slaughter had spread like wildfire. Screens in every city displayed the images. Once vibrant cities reduced to rubble, ships burning in orbit, survivors huddled among ruins, and cries that echoed across communication networks. The Supreme Council convened immediately. their faces pale, their hands trembling. In the grand hall, the weight of what had happened pressed on everyone, heavy as gravity. General Arik Voss, a man whose calm had earned him respect across fleets, slammed his fist on the table. "This is not just an attack," he roared. "This is a declaration of war against every ally of Earth. Every life lost cries out for justice. We cannot sit idle." His words hung in the room, sparking a fire in the hearts of those who had doubted humanity's resolve. Earth had long warned the galaxy about lurking threats. Humans were not naive. They had studied the movements of hostile species for centuries. Yet other civilizations had shrugged off warnings, calling humans reckless or obsessed. And now, those warnings had come true, in the most brutal way possible. The Council knew one thing with certainty. They had a duty, not just to themselves, not just to humanity, but to the countless lives lost on Valoran Prime. The humans would answer. Science teams and engineers worked day and night, transforming Earth's fleets into machines of precision, strength, and cunning. Weapons once thought impossible were redesigned, shields were strengthened, and new strategies were developed to strike without mercy. Unlike other races, humans did not wait for luck or diplomacy to save them. They created their own hope, forged in the furnace of determination and fury. On every ship, humans trained relentlessly. Pilots pushed themselves beyond normal limits. Engineers ensured that every weapon functioned flawlessly, and strategists plotted maneuvers that could outwit even the most ruthless enemy. Every action, every plan carried a single purpose: avenge Valoran Prime. Meanwhile, across the streets of Earth, ordinary people contributed. Volunteers built supply lines, repaired ships, and comforted the families of those already lost in smaller skirmishes. The planet itself seemed to pulse with urgency. Humanity had never been united like this before, and now they would show the galaxy their strength. Amid all the preparations, Captain Mara Hale remained focused. The horrors she had witnessed haunted her nights, but she used that pain as fuel. She spoke to her crew with a quiet intensity that inspired loyalty. "We fight not only for Valoran Prime," she said. "We fight for justice, for honor, for every life stolen. We will not fail them, we cannot." The fleet prepared to leave Earth orbit, engines humming like the heartbeat of a great predator. As they charged through space, every human aboard felt the same burning determination. Rage had transformed into focus, sorrow into strategy. They would not merely fight, they would strike with precision, with honor, and with the unstoppable force that humans had always possessed. Above, satellites captured the fires of Earth's resolve, lighting the night sky. Visible even from orbit, the galaxy would see the humans' answer. It would be swift, it would be decisive, and it would burn in memory long after the battle ended. As Mara looked out at the endless stars, she whispered to herself, "Let them remember. Let them know what happens when humanity's friends are harmed. Let them see our rage." And in that moment, across Earth, across ships preparing to leave orbit, and across the hearts of every human ready to fight, a single truth crystallized. Vengeance was coming, bright and unstoppable. The quiet of the galaxy had ended. The fire of Earth's wrath had begun. The humans' fleet glided through the vast emptiness of space, a shining column of steel and fire moving with unwavering purpose. Captain Mara Hale stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her eyes fixed on the stars. Ahead, every light, every shadow reminded her of the friends and allies lost on Valoran Prime. The screams, the flames, the shattered cities, they haunted her, but they also fueled her. Humanity had never been patient in the face of injustice, and now their patience had ended. The journey to Valoran Prime's ruins was long, but Mara and her crew did not rest. Every hyperjump, every maneuver was calculated. They avoided enemy patrols, scanned for ambushes, and practiced combat drills even as the fleet moved silently among the stars. The crew knew that when they arrived, hesitation would be death. They had witnessed the cost of delay, and now delay was unacceptable. As they approached the system, the devastation of Valoran Prime unfolded beneath them. Smoke rose like black towers from every city. Rivers, once clear and sparkling, were clouded with ash. Ships floated dead in orbit, twisted and burned beyond recognition. Survivors clung to life wherever they could, their eyes wide with shock and despair. Some recognized the human fleet as it appeared above the planet and fell to their knees, tears of hope and disbelief streaming down their faces. Mara's voice carried over the fleet comms, steady but fierce. This is only the beginning. Earth did not forget. Earth will not forgive. We are here to protect what remains and to strike back against those who brought death to your world. She turned to her officers. Prepare rescue teams, deploy defenses, and ready the assault fleet. We will not just respond. We will show the galaxy what it means to provoke humanity. On the planet below, humans and Valoran survivors worked together to rebuild makeshift defenses. Mara observed soldiers coordinating with civilians, creating barricades and caring for the wounded. Even in the midst of destruction, hope flickered. Humans had always been resilient. It was a trait that shone brightest in the darkest hours. The enemy would soon arrive, she knew. Dark ships had been spotted in nearby systems, the same type that had brought annihilation to Valoran Prime. Mara's crew monitored every movement, scanning for energy signatures, calculating distances, predicting attacks. The humans' advantage was not just their weapons, it was their mind, their ingenuity, their unwillingness to surrender. As night fell over the smoldering planet, Mara allowed herself a moment of silence. The twin suns of Valoran Prime set behind, the horizon casting long shadows over the ruins. She thought of every life lost, the scholars who had taught her, the friends who had fought by her side, the civilians who had trusted humans to protect them. Rage and grief intertwined, forming a resolve stronger than steel. Then a flash on the sensors, enemy scouts. Mara's eyes narrowed. The first strike was coming, and they would not wait. All hands, she said, voice ringing through the Resolute. Stand ready. Today we show them the price of cruelty. Today we defend what is left of Valoran Prime. And when the fires of battle are done, the galaxy will know that humans do not forget. Humans do not forgive. Humans fight. The fleet bristled with energy. Weapons hummed. Engines roared. Below, the survivors watched in awe as the humans prepared for war, their courage a beacon in the darkness. Mara's heart pounded with purpose. This was more than revenge. This was a promise, a warning, and a testament to human strength. And as the first enemy ships blinked into view on the edge of the system, Mara whispered to herself, eyes blazing with fire and determination, "Let them see our wrath. Let them feel our justice. We fight for Valoran. We fight for every life they stole. And we will not stop until the galaxy remembers our name." The stars themselves seemed to tremble as the humans readied for the coming storm. The silence of space shattered. In a blaze of energy, Captain Mara Hale's fleet emerged from the shadows of the asteroid belts, sensors locked on the dark ships that had once rained death on Valoran Prime. The enemy had grown complacent, believing the humans would be cautious, slow to react, hesitant. In their wrath, they had been wrong. "Target their command vessels first," Mara ordered, voice sharp and unwavering. "We take the leaders out and the rest will follow." The fleet responded instantly. Cannons hummed with deadly precision. Energy bolts streaked across the void, slicing through enemy shields like knives through cloth. Mara watched from the bridge of the Resolute as the first enemy ships exploded in fire, their pieces scattering into the endless black. For a moment there was silence, almost reverent, as if the universe itself recognized the beginning of humanity's retribution. But the battle had only begun. Enemy fighters swarmed, trying to flank the human fleet. Mara's officers worked like a single mind, coordinating maneuvers that twisted and turned, luring attackers into traps. Humans fought differently. They adapted, they learned, they endured. Each loss only made the next strike sharper, more precise. "Captain, enemy shields down on the lead frigate," called Lieutenant Vega, her fingers flying over the console. Prepare boarding teams if necessary. Mara's jaw tightened. Boarding was risky, but humans had always excelled at the impossible. She knew that courage, teamwork, and determination were more powerful than any weapon the enemy could muster. "Do it," she said, her voice quiet but carrying the weight of conviction. "We leave none alive who harmed Valoran Prime." Below, on the ruins of Valoran Prime, survivors looked to the skies. The fleet above them was no longer a distant force. They were guardians, avengers, a shield that would not falter. Children hid behind barricades, yet even they felt the hope that humans brought. Their allies' deaths had not been in vain. Humanity had come, and they would strike back with unstoppable force. The enemy faltered, confused by the humans' unrelenting advance. Ships that had once struck fear into entire systems were now burning, their pilots overwhelmed by strategy, skill, and an unbreakable will. Mara's heart pounded, not with fear but with fierce pride. Her crew was unstoppable, their courage echoing the spirit of every human who had ever faced impossible odds. "Focus fire on the capital cruiser," Mara commanded, eyes narrowing. "Do not let them regroup. For every life lost on Valoran Prime, they will pay tenfold." The frigate erupted under the concentrated assault, sending a wave of debris into orbit. Mara allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction, though she knew the battle was far from over. The enemy's response was only beginning, and they would be desperate, dangerous, and deadly. Yet even in the chaos, Mara felt a strange calm. Humans did not fight recklessly. They calculated, adapted, and pushed forward with courage that transcended fear. Every crew member aboard the fleet was more than a soldier. They were a symbol of justice, a living testament that Earth's wrath could not be ignored. As the first wave of enemy reinforcements appeared on the sensors, Mara gripped the console tightly. "Prepare for the next phase," she said, voice steady. "We will not falter, we will not retreat. We fight for Valoran, for every life taken, and for every star that dares to threaten humanity or its allies. They will remember this day." Across the stars, the battle raged, but humanity's fire burned brighter. The first strike had been devastating, but it was only the beginning. Every enemy ship destroyed, every weapon neutralized was a message. Humans did not forgive easily. Humans did not forget. And as Mara looked out into the endless void, the flames of battle reflected in her eyes, she whispered to herself, "Let the galaxy see. Let them all see what happens when humanity's rage is unleashed." The first strike had begun. The galaxy would never be the same. The battle had raged for days, and the human fleet pressed forward relentlessly. Yet one enemy remained. A massive command ship, the Oblivion, looming like a dark fortress in orbit above Valoran Prime. It was bristling with weapons capable of destroying the entire human fleet, and its presence alone chilled even the bravest of Mara's officers. "Captain," Lieutenant Vega said, her voice tense, "we can't take it head-on. Its shields are too strong and its weapons can annihilate us before we get close." Mara's eyes narrowed, scanning the enemy's patterns, the timing of its attacks, every detail available from the sensors. "Then we don't fight it like they expect. We hit where they are weakest, we go inside, we destroy it from within." Her words were a whisper of determination, but the weight behind them was unmistakable. A small strike team was assembled. Mara herself led the boarding mission, knowing that this was a risk no human had taken lightly. As their craft raced toward the Oblivion, the fleet created a diversion, drawing the enemy's attention away from the vulnerable side of the ship. Mara felt her pulse quicken, not from fear, but from the intensity of purpose. Every step they took was for Valoran Prime. Every action carried the memory of lives lost. The boarding team infiltrated the ship through a damaged airlock, slipping inside like shadows. The corridors were lined with enemy soldiers and automated defense drones. Mara and her team moved with precision, neutralizing threats quietly and efficiently. Each fallen enemy was a reminder of why they had come, not for revenge alone, but for justice, for the countless innocents who could no longer defend themselves. As they reached the core of the Oblivion, Mara surveyed the massive power center. It pulsed with lethal energy, a heart of destruction. The charges were placed carefully, each one set to obliterate the command systems and ensure the ship could never harm another world. Yet the tension in the air was almost unbearable. One misstep, one alarm, and their lives would be over. Mara paused for a moment, looking out through a small viewport at the stars beyond the ship. Valoran Prime glimmered faintly in the distance, scarred but not defeated. The survivors, the children, the soldiers, they were waiting, hoping, believing. She swallowed her fear and whispered, "We fight for them. We fight for everyone who cannot fight back. This ends tonight." The countdown began. Lights blinked red, alarms screamed. Mara's team prepared to evacuate as the explosion neared. Every second stretched, every heartbeat a drum of defiance. Then, with a roar that shook the hull and lit the void with blinding brilliance, the core erupted. The Oblivion was no more. The fleet above saw the explosion, the massive ship tearing apart from the inside. Mara exhaled, feeling the weight of victory mixed with the grief of loss. The humans had struck a decisive blow, but it had come at a cost. Lives had been risked, friends had been lost. Yet in that moment, hope surged across Valoran Prime like a rising sun. As Mara and her team returned to the Resolute, the survivors below cheered, tears streaming down their faces. Humans and Valorans alike embraced, united by shared courage and shared grief. The galaxy had witnessed something remarkable, the determination of a species that refused to be defeated, that would not let injustice stand. Mara stood on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. The Oblivion was gone. But the fight had shown humanity's true power, not just their weapons, but their courage, their ingenuity, and their unwavering will. The message was clear. Anyone who harmed humanity's allies would pay a price beyond imagination. And as Valoran Prime slowly began to heal, as the survivors rebuilt and humans stood guard, Mara whispered softly, almost to herself, "The galaxy will remember this day. They will remember what happens when humanity's fury is unleashed. We do not forgive, we do not forget, and we fight. Always." The turning point had arrived. The humans had proven that even the darkest, most powerful enemies could be defeated with courage, strategy, and unbreakable resolve. And across the stars, whispers began to spread. Earth's wrath was unstoppable. Aftermath of the battle stretched across Valoran Prime like a scar etched into the surface of the world. Cities were rebuilding, but their foundations carried the memory of fire and death. Human ships remained in orbit, their engines quiet, but their presence a constant reminder. Earth had arrived, and their vengeance had been swift and unstoppable. Captain, Mara Hale stood on a balcony of the newly rebuilt Valoran Academy, overlooking survivors tending gardens and reconstructing shelters. Tears streaked her face, not for the humans who had fought, nor for the enemy who had been destroyed, but for the countless lives that could never be restored. She whispered softly, "We did what we could. We honored them." The galaxy, however, did not merely watch quietly. Across countless systems, species that had once doubted humanity now whispered in awe. They had seen the humans strike with precision, courage, and ingenuity. They had witnessed a species that refused to be broken, a species whose fury, once awakened, was a force unlike any other. Stories spread from world to world, of the Resolute leading the fleet, of Mara Hale infiltrating the Oblivion, of humans who risked everything for allies they had only recently met. In the halls of the Supreme Council on Earth, celebrations were quiet. Humans did not rejoice in death. They did not take pleasure in the suffering of their enemies. Instead, there was solemn pride, a recognition of the cost paid for justice. Engineers, soldiers, and leaders shared stories of bravery, recounting acts of courage from those who had given their lives to protect others. Every tale added to the legend of Earth's might and resolve. Mara walked among the Valorans, offering aid, words of comfort, and encouragement. She saw how the survivors looked at humans now, not with fear but with respect and hope. You came when no one else would, said one elder, a Valoran who had once laughed at Earth's warnings. You saved what remained of us. We will never forget this. Mara nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle deeper in her chest. Humanity's actions had reshaped not only the future of Valoran Prime, but the perception of humans across the stars. The galaxy would remember that humans were allies to be trusted, enemies to be feared, and protectors whose courage knew no bounds. In space, the fleet maintained vigilance, scanning the horizon for remnants of the dark enemy. There were whispers that some ships had escaped, that others plotted revenge. Mara understood that peace was always temporary, but she also knew that the lesson had been delivered. Humanity had made its presence, its determination, and its strength undeniable. Even so, the human crews did not grow arrogant. Each officer, pilot and soldier carried the memories of friends lost, the screams of the innocent, and the faces of survivors into every day of their duties. Rage had fueled their victory, but compassion guided their actions afterward. They did not destroy indiscriminately. They rebuilt, they protected, and they honored every life that had been lost. Mara's gaze drifted to the horizon, where Valoran Prime's twin suns set in brilliant hues. Smoke still rose in distant forests, but life returned slowly, stubbornly, beautifully. And across the galaxy the humans' legend spread, a story told in hushed tones and wide-eyed whispers. They are unstoppable, a Valoran soldier said quietly to a companion. They fight not for glory, not for conquest, but for justice, and when they strike, the universe will remember. Mara felt a quiet satisfaction. The cost had been high, the sorrow deep, but Earth's presence had made a difference. Allies had been avenged, survivors protected, and a message sent: humanity would not be ignored. The galaxy could see now what Earth had long known. Humans were more than clever, more than strong. They were unyielding, relentless, and fiercely loyal. And as the stars shimmered above, reflecting in Mara's eyes, she knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy would remember Earth, not as a distant world, not as a mild warning, but as a force that would rise whenever injustice threatened those it protected. Earth's fire had burned across the stars, and in every system that witnessed it, the name of humanity was spoken with awe, respect, and, in some, a touch of fear. The galaxy had changed. Valoran Prime slowly healed under the watchful eyes of humans who stayed to ensure peace, their ships a silent shield in orbit. Forests regrew, rivers flowed clear once more, and survivors rebuilt homes and lives. Yet even amid this renewal, the memory of loss remained, etched deep into every heart. Humanity had arrived, and in their wake, they left a promise. Allies would never be abandoned, and injustice would never go unpunished. Captain Mara Hale stood at the observation deck of the Resolute, gazing into the endless stars. The glow of Valoran's twin suns reflected in her eyes, and she felt a mix of sorrow and pride. Sorrow for the countless lives lost, pride for the humans who had risked everything to protect a world not their own. She had seen courage she never thought possible, ingenuity that outmatched even the most ruthless foes, and a spirit unbroken by grief. The humans had burned bright in the darkness, and their fire would be remembered. In distant systems, word of the humans' deeds spread like wildfire. The story was told in quiet corners of crowded starports, in the corridors of council chambers, and in whispered conversations among soldiers. They are unstoppable, one alien commander said to another. They fight for what is right, and they strike with a force that cannot be ignored. The galaxy was learning a lesson it would not soon forget. Do not harm humanity's allies. Even as the humans left Valoran Prime to return to Earth, their presence remained. They had rebuilt infrastructure, trained local forces, and left behind a network of support. The survivors looked at their human protectors not as strangers but as heroes, friends, and guardians. Mara watched them wave from the planet below, their faces a mix of gratitude and awe. Humanity had not just fought, they had inspired. Yet Mara knew that peace was fragile. Somewhere in the darkness, the remnants of the enemy lurked, nursing anger and plotting revenge. But humans did not fear. They had faced impossible odds and emerged stronger. The lessons of Valoran Prime had been carved into their souls. Humanity's strength lay not just in technology or strategy, but in courage, loyalty, and an unyielding will. As the Resolute jumped into hyperspace, Mara allowed herself a moment of reflection. Every life lost on Valoran Prime had shaped this victory. Every human who had fought, bled, and endured had contributed to a force the galaxy could no longer underestimate. Rage had burned bright, but it had been tempered with purpose. Justice, not hatred, had guided their actions, and that made them unstoppable. Across Earth, the news of the mission's success inspired citizens and leaders alike. Humans, everywhere, felt the pride of a species that had stood firm against darkness. Children whispered tales of Captain Mara Hale and the brave crew of the Resolute. Scholars wrote of the strategy and courage that had turned a desperate fight into a legendary victory. Across countless worlds, humanity's name became synonymous with determination, justice, and unbreakable spirit. Mara gazed out into the void, her thoughts on the lives they had saved, and those they could not. She whispered softly, a promise, to the stars themselves. We will protect, we will avenge, we will never abandon those who trust us. Our rage burns bright, and it will light the way for every ally, every friend, and every world that cries for justice. And the galaxy listened. Systems once hesitant, once dismissive, now regarded Earth with awe and respect. Enemies knew caution, allies knew hope. Humans had proven that their fire was eternal, their spirit unstoppable, and their loyalty unshakable. Indeed, the quiet of space among the stars, a single truth resonated. Earth's wrath was not fleeting. It burned bright across the galaxy, a beacon of justice, a warning to the cruel and a promise to the innocent. Humans would rise wherever needed, unwavering and unyielding, and in that brilliance, in that rage tempered by honor and courage, the galaxy would remember humanity forever.